In 2014, there were over 1,000 opioid-related deaths across Massachusetts due to the use of heroin and other opioid-based painkillers. Essex County had the second greatest number of fatalities, totaling 146 deaths. Andover, one of the more affluent and education-oriented communities in Essex County, has not escaped the devastating grasp of opiates. The majority of people living in Andover, however, are unaware of the prevalence of drugs like heroin in our community. In an effort to bring attention to the issue, I've interviewed several addicts that graduated from or are currently attending Andover High School. This is the other side of Andover, Massachusetts.
Addiction to me is just the inability to deal with your emotions. So you find this subject, or whatever you want to call it, whatever your addiction is for, you find it to cope with your emotions and to prevent you from breaking on a day-to-day basis.
It's tricky. It's definitely a disease. Whether or not you're born into it, it's in your genes. It could happen to anyone. Addiction doesn't discriminate. Kind of just when you mentally get hooked on something, or physically, and you just can't stop doing it.
I think that, because I wasn't physically addicted after my first time, but I woke up the next morning and it's like the first thing I thought of right away. It's all I would think about, and I would plan to keep using.
It's like falling in love, because you find something and you can't get enough of it until you realize it's not right for you, and then you have to stop the relationship.
Feeling like you need to do something every day, when really it's just all in your head. It's your whole world.
A hurricane, standing in an open field. There's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. I can give you the clinical definition. It's a pathological relationship with an object outside yourself. But it's real.
I think addiction is inside of everyone. Everyone is an addict. We're all addicted to something. You can be addicted to that cup of coffee that you drink every morning, addicted to the workout that makes you feel better about yourself. Everyone's addicted to something. It's something that you need in your head, something in your mind you don't think you can live without. And at some point it crosses the border between psychological and physical. Addiction, it's hard to describe because it's individual for everyone. For me, addiction was what I felt I needed for my day to be complete, what I felt I needed for me to be complete as a person.
Just needing something so much that you don't care about the consequences and you don't care about those around you. So you're addicted to something, like, regardless of how much you love someone, there's gonna come to a point where that's gonna come between you and them and you're gonna pick the drug.
I don't know, man, it's just hell on earth. It really is. It's like a daily struggle. It's a disease of the mind, and it's a lot more than just, picking up a drug and being able to put it down, because it's not that simple. If it were as easy as picking it up and putting it down, then why, when people get clean, do they end up picking up again? It's like selling your soul to the devil. It's the best way that I can describe addiction.
My name is Bill Fahey. I'm the director of the Andover Youth Services here in Andover, Mass.
Do you think Andover has a heroin problem?
Yes.
What makes you think that?
Well, I personally have been affected because some really amazing young people have been affected by addiction and have passed away because of the use of heroin. I would say they're probably similar in every community across the United States, that young people and people of all ages sometimes turns towards using a substance for a number of reasons. Their environment, they could have a genetic factor where maybe their parents struggle from addiction. There's a curiosity factor potentially, maybe not even understanding if you pick this up it could turn into a nightmare. but I think it definitely heroin has hit sort of the middle class and the suburb areas where it used to be perceived like it's for an inner city or a poorer place, but it's reached communities where there's a large number of middle class living, which is kind of like Andover,
How many people do you know who have tried heroin?
Tried it, probably at least 20. I started seeing my friends try it when I was 14. It was the first time I saw someone shoot up in front of me. And as for continual usage, I'd say I know at least 13, 14 kids.
I was 17. One of my really good friends started using. We didn't know where he was. He was kind of fell off the grid, so I hung out with him. I clearly knew he was high off of heroin when I hung out with him, and next thing you know, I started giving him and his friend rides to go buy it in Lawrence, and I was getting paid a lot of money to do it. And that was for a week, and each day the money would go down, so he'd pay me less and less each day. And then one day he just offered me a key bump, which is a small bump of heroin, and I snorted it, instantly fell in love with it. I had known what it was about before because I was addicted to opiate painkillers, that type of deal, but yeah, that was basically the first time I tried it.
What made you want to try it?
A lot of curiosity, because I knew it was a lot better than prescription painkillers and stuff like that. I knew it was more of a full body high rather than just a head high, and a lot more intense. And I don't know, I didn't really have a terrible life or anything like that, a lot of people would think, but mainly just curiosity, and that was really it.
So what did you use?
I don't know, it's just kind of I'm dyslexic, so I always had a hard time in school, and always had a lot of problems with teachers and stuff like that, and always got really aggravated, kind of short-tempered, so mainly, I don't know, like anyone does to get high, just to get out of myself and that whole type of deal.
How often would you use when you were using?
Every single day.
And how long was that for?
That was for a little over a year. I have no criminal record currently. I've been to two detoxes and 2 different residential programs. Definitely right off the bat, because I knew I just instantly loved it, and I started doing it every day from then on there after the first time I tried it, so I kind of knew I was hooked. I've always had an addictive personality ever since the beginning. I was born into it. It's in my genes. My uncle's a heroin addict. I have a large family of alcoholism. So just gave me really bad depression. Slowly ruining my life. I really wanted to kill myself. Made me very suicidal. And just all the misery. It's no life to live. How bad of a mental state I was in. Like this summer, there've been a few times I would try to intentionally overdose and kill myself, and I would do way too much, but wouldn't die. And next thing you know, I'd be calling my dope dealer up saying, "Oh, this shit's dirt," or "This shit's not good at all," because I didn't die. That's just pretty fucked up to me.
First off, you went to Andover High School?
I did.
When was the first time you started using heroin?
22.
And why? What made you want to?
Well, I had an outstanding painkiller addiction that had been going on 4 years prior to that. And basically what had happened was I was using so much a day that I couldn't keep up my habit. And, getting to spend $300 a day just to feed a habit is too much for for someone who's working a minimum wage job, and it's too cheap and too hard of a opportunity to pass up.
And how did you first get into painkillers in general?
I had never even heard of them up until my first day of college, and a kid that I had met at orientation was the only kid that I had got their number. And first day of college, I called him up and I was like, hey, my roommate's not here. I got like an open dorm, you know, like let's smoke or chill or do whatever, you know. And so he came over to my dorm room, and you know, like he had a few kids with him, and they came in, they went like right over to my desk and they were like, hey, you don't mind if we, you know, use your desk, do you? And I was like, I don't really care, you know, like whatever. And so they take out these little, you know, blue pills, and I'm like looking at them all like, what are these kids doing? Like, I've never seen anything like this before at this point. You know, it's usually just been like drinking or smoking weed. And I was like, what is that? And they were like, what is that? Like, what do you mean, what is that? This kid Colin explained to me, you know, like it's a perk 30. It's a painkiller, it's an opiate. And I was like, all right, well, let me get down, you know? And he was like, all right, well, I'll give you like half of it because you'll probably end up, you know, like getting sick or something. And I was like, no, just give me the whole thing. So like I did, you know, my first perk 30, and I got like wrecked. Like not enough to get sick, but like pretty much down for the count the whole day. Like my head in my lap, like couldn't really speak, could barely see. It was like, I was a hot mess for pretty much the whole day. But what kept me coming back was the feeling it gives you. It's just like, it's like nothing else. It's like, if I were to describe it as anything else, it'd be like having like your comfiest blanket fresh out of the dryer, like wrapped around you at all times for the whole time. And you don't want to take it off.
First time I tried heroin, probably like October of last year. So I was at school, and like I didn't use there the first time, but I would come home and visit like friends here all the time, and I just started coming home more and more, and like the kids I would hang out with were all heroin addicts too, so hang out in the barbershop long enough, you're bound to get a cut.
So you've been around a lot before you started using?
Yeah, not like a very long time, maybe like a year. I made some new friends that are still like my best friends, but they just got caught up in it too.
And how long did you use for?
A little over a year. About a year, I'd say. I mean, I didn't do it all the time because I was still playing soccer at school, so I kind of had to balance it. And I was always, I don't know, I was always careful about it, or like tried to be as careful as I could. Trying not to like get addicted, but still, there's like nothing else that like had me, like mentally. Maybe not physically, but mentally I would like think about it all day, especially the next day after I tried it the first time. It was like unreal.
Why did you use?
I guess curiosity. I mean, I knew all about it. I knew the negatives that it could bring into someone's life, but I guess curiosity just got the better of me. I needed to try it for whatever reason.
The first time I tried anything else was October of my junior year, so that was, no, October of my senior year. So that was like a year and a bit ago. And after that, like I started to experiment more and more. Like my friend told me that Robitussin could get me high, so I tried that, and then I moved to Xanax, and finally Percocet. And the third time I tried Percocet, they said they didn't have a Perc 30, they just had a crushed up Perc 80, and it turned out to be heroin. So that's how I moved into that direction. And yeah. When I was using heroin, it was probably like 4 to 7 times a week. And then like when I did it that day, I'd probably do it like 2 or 3 times. But then I got sent to a program, and when I came out, I started to do pills because I could just get them around the house. There was like an Adderall script and a Xanax script in my house. And then I started to use Robitussin a lot. And I was using that like every day for a month. And then finally, the last time I did it, it like lasted for a week after my final dose, and I had to go to a mental hospital because I thought it was going to stay like that forever.
What is it that you're addicted to?
I'm an alcoholic.
And when was the first time you ever drank?
I'd probably say 8th grade.
Why?
Just to try it. I was curious. Me and my friends were doing it, so I decided to do it.
Had you seen alcohol a lot before you started drinking yourself?
Yeah, almost every day my mom's an alcoholic as well, so it was a pretty common thing in the household.
Why, once you found out you were an alcoholic, why did you continue to drink? Like, what made you want to drink?
That's an interesting question. It was probably just dealing with the fact that I was an alcoholic, sitting back and saying, wow, I'm 17 years old and I have a drinking problem. And the only way I knew how to deal with my emotions at that time was to continue to drink. So, you know, it's just like a chain effect, I guess.
How often did you drink?
Every day or every other day.
And how long had you been doing that for?
Probably like a year or two.
How has this affected your life, like, day to day?
Day to day. The biggest thing I would probably say is gaining trust and staying away from it's hard too, because it's everywhere, especially at my age, being like a senior in high school. It's everywhere, and like everyone wants to drink and go to parties, so it's kind of like if you're not drinking and going to parties, they make it feel like you have nothing else to do. So that's another hard thing, is having fun without drinking.
When did you first realize you had a problem?
Probably in the beginning of this year, when I started just seeing like the change in my behavior, and I was drinking like every day from 7 o'clock in the morning till like 10 o'clock at night. And then I realized that it's not what normal people do, and I was kind of following the trend of my mom, so.
Have you ever gotten sent away because of it?
Yeah, I went to detox 3 times within a year.
Do you think those programs are useful, being like those detox programs?
I mean, it really depends on your mindset and the program. If you want to get sober, the programs are a key step in your sobriety. Obviously, the detox helps you get sober, and then they'll send you to other programs like halfway houses or any other places like 90-day programs. But it's ultimately your decision. You can go in those programs with a mindset that you don't want to get sober, and the program won't do anything for you besides get you angry and make all your emotions come out. Or you can go in the program saying, I want help and I'm an addict, and the programs can be the best thing that's happened to your life. So it's all depending on the person. For me personally, it was probably one of the best experiences I've had, and I think it was a crucial part to me being sober to this day. So. The hardest part for me living the sober life would probably be dealing with my emotions head on, because the one thing I did when I was drinking is any emotion that I would face, I would drink to dull the emotions because I didn't feel like I could deal with them. So the thing with now that I can't drink, it's all the emotions that I face, I have to face them head on, and I have to face them with the support of my sober group and my family. So that's probably the hardest part.
And what ultimately made you want to stop?
I was pretty much just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it was just like, I saw all the destruction it brought to my mom's life, and I realized, why the hell would I want to put myself in the same situation that my mom did? And I'm not going to be able to accomplish anything in life if I continue down the horrible path.
I first tried Coke my freshman year. It was actually an accident. We thought it was ecstasy. But then after I snorted it, well, we all started pretty much vibrating, and that's when we realized it wasn't actually E. But I first started using it for what it was my junior year.
And had you been around a lot before you started using?
Yes, but I'd been around every drug. Like, every drug is very prevalent in high school in a community like this. Like, you see kids smoking, shooting, snorting, taking pills, every color of the rainbow, popping them like they're candy. Like, every drug is around. I steadily used for about 6 months, and then after that, on and off. I would have binges or relapses, and then longer periods of time where I would stay clean.
What made you first want to try coke?
Curiosity. Like, I had tried Adderall, Ritalin, other amphetamines before. They make you better, they make you faster, they make you more confident, they make you smarter, more focused, more capable of everything. And it makes you into a better you, the kind of you that you're always expected to be, but you can never seem to attain. They tell you that coke's just like that. There are a lot of instances when I realized that it was a problem. I would blow my nose and blood would come up. My friend told me at one point that the dark circles under my eyes from not sleeping had like bleached out and just become bruises on my face. I dropped like 20 pounds. It was really like I would put it before everything. I would put it before friends, seeing my family, school. That's where all my money went. And you don't even realize it until you're at the bottom of your own grave looking up. It negatively affected my life because it's something, addiction in and of itself is a very negative thing. And it negatively affected my life just with its presence, and it's going to continue to negatively affect it because addiction isn't something that ever ends. Once you get a taste of something, you're always going to crave it. You're always going to want it. It's always going to be there in the back of your mind, even if you can't taste it in reality. It's going to become your favorite flavor, and once you can't have that, it doesn't matter how long you deprive yourself of it, you're always going to want it. It's a consistent struggle.
It ruined a decent amount of friendships. Definitely put my relationship with my parents and my family on ice. Everyone was kind of took everyone back, took everyone by surprise because I hid it so well. Like, no one had any idea, at least inside my family. And then I got arrested for possession of Class A, so that kind of changed things. I had to go to detox and go to court and everything, and yeah, it just kind of, it's like an eye-opening experience, I guess, getting arrested for that, because it kind of puts things into perspective. Like, you don't think about it while you're using, because obviously you're using, but you don't think about like the bigger picture, and then something happens and you kind of have to step back and look at it and look at what you're doing, and you just don't realize it.
Once you developed a habit, why did you continue to use?
That same feel-good feeling that you get when, you know, like when you're using, it's like almost too good to put down. It's like anything that you are like really into in your life, you know, like you never really want to stop, you know, whether it be sports, you love sports, you never want to put it down. Like, I found that feeling with perks, and like in addition to everyone else that I was hanging out with doing them, you know, like it was a social thing that I fit in with, and in my group it was accepted to do that, so I just kept doing it. But on top of that, the high is just so strong and so intense. It's like, it's really hard to put down. It's just, you know, like in the beginning it's all fun and games because, you know, like that's, you're partying, you know, like, you know, some people do it, you know, 13, 14. I found it at 18, 19. And it's just like, you know, why stop something that, you know, makes you feel like you fit in and makes you feel good at the same time, and at first glance it doesn't seem to cause any problems in your life, except for maybe, you know, like some short change in your wallet. But other than that, you know, like I didn't think that it would be an issue to the extent that it grew to.
What kind of problems has it caused in your life?
You know, to start out with, I ended up dropping out of college because I stopped going to class. You know, like another year or two down the road, I couldn't keep a job because I would be stealing from my job's money. Or I just wouldn't show up to work that day because I would be sick from not having them. like flu-like symptoms, like nauseous, like diarrhea, waking up in a pool of your own sweat. You know, like around that time, my family started kind of catching on with it, and, you know, they started realizing that, you know, like I was, you know, not acting myself. So it's caused my family life some problems for sure. I've been, you know, lucky enough not to have any legal, like, arrests or anything from, you know, my use, but you know, like I've got, you know, like once I went to hardest stuff, heroin, you know, like my family got hip to the Section 35, which is they basically go to the court and tell the court that, you know, you're a danger to yourself or others, and they have a doctor come in and see you. They like pretty much give you, you know, a few questions. They like look at your arms and stuff to see, you know, like if you have track marks, and if they think that you're, you know, using or you're bad, then they will suggest to the judge that you be mandated to treatment. And it's happened to me twice, and you know, like loss of freedom is a big one for me, because like I've never had to, you know, be held down by any constraints. And the first time I got sectioned to Bridgewater State Prison, and it's not a treatment facility. Like they pretty much give you Department of Corrections clothes. You're inside of a barbed wire fence, and it sucks. You know, it's like basically trading off your life and freedom for the use of drugs. And while you're using, it's, you know, you'll put everything on the pedestal that has drugs, and you'll just toss everything else out without a care in the world.
How often did you use when you were like at your peak?
Every day, multiple times a day.
And were you just snorting, or were you?
No, I went from snorting the 30s to then snorting the heroin to then maybe like 4 or 5 days after I snorted the heroin, I went just straight to shooting it with a syringe. And once you get to that point, there's really no going back, you know, like, it's almost like an entirely different high. And, you know, like why would you, you know, sniff something when you get less of it and it lasts a shorter amount of time, when you can get instant gratification within 2 seconds from using a needle and it lasts way longer? You know, it just, you know, like that seemed logical in my mind while I was using, but, you know, now I look at it and I was like, you know, like I used to put a needle in my arm just to get high, you know, like it far surpasses the putting, you know, an herb in a piece of paper to get high. I'm like actually, you know, like I'm, you know, melting down drugs and putting them in a syringe and then into my body just to be able to get high. Like it got to like a pretty ugly point.
I think about it every day. I don't think there's been a day since I've tried it that it hasn't like been a thought at least once throughout the day.
What are your triggers?
I mean, just a bad day, like just a fight with my parents or whatever. Like the first thing I could think of would be to go pick up and use. But I mean, even going to the gym, like I obviously wasn't going to the gym when I was using, and once I got clean, I started going back to the gym, and like just seeing my veins like in the mirror, we would just like, it's all I would start thinking about. It was just like using anything. Like I would see a guy like in Boston, because I work in Boston, so I would see guys like on the streets like nodding off, or like they just look messed up, and I would just start to think, like your thoughts just start to race. You can't control it sometimes. Like it's crazy.
Like just over 10 months ago, I had just gotten out of detox, and straight from detox went home, took a bunch of my mom's Xanax, and then, waited a few hours, and I had full intentions of staying clean when I got out, but, like 6 days at a detox, it's just not enough for some people. It's certainly not enough for me. So, like I ended up not being in the right state of mind, calling a buddy of mine, being like, hey, I'm fresh out of detox, like, what's good, like thinking I'm, hot shit over here, when in reality, I'm like just another junk box fresh out of detox, like raring to go again. And so I went over his house, and like he gave me some dope, and I shot up, and before I could even get the tourniquet or needle out of my arm, I had overdosed, hit the ground, a few days later, putting the pieces back together, what had happened was I had, overdosed. He had to drag me down 3 flights of stairs to the basement so that when the paramedics got there, they could take me out of his house. And all I can really remember from the time when I got to his house till right up until when I was, about to shoot up was the paramedics came and they hit me with Narcan. It's a nasal aerosol, and it pretty much pushes the dope off of the receptors in your brain so that your body can, wake up again, because it's a depressant, so you pretty much just stop breathing. I just remember hearing people screaming and yelling, and I couldn't open my eyes, and then I went back out, and I kind of started coming to again when they were loading me into the ambulance, and I remember opening my eyes, and I was freaked out because I knew I was going to the hospital, and I knew it was bad. I was like, I'm good, like let me out, like let me out, like I don't want any part of this. And they were like, you're not going anywhere, kid, like lay back down, it's too late for that. And I, and then I overdosed again, and I was, out for the whole ride all the way to Lawrence General Hospital. However long it took them to get me there from, like downtown Andover. And they had to hit me with the IV Narcan, and I woke right back up, like immediately, like as if I was never like overdosed. It was very weird and surreal to like wake up in another place from where I already was. But it happened to be Friday the 13th that day, which was also my mother's birthday. And I didn't realize that till, like months later, because I was, still all messed up. And that was ugly. Like, I think that was probably like the first real like moment that I realized that like I had a real bad problem, like I had just gotten out of detox, I just overdosed, like, and like it's on my mom's birthday, like every kid should be spending, their parent be with a parent on their birthday. And she has to come into the hospital to see her son on a hospital gurney out in the middle of the hallway because they don't have any rooms for, like another junkie who's just coming in overdosed. And the ugly thing is, like I went back out the next few days and still used, full well knowing that, I just did all that damage to myself and my mom and my family and everything. And like I got sectioned a few days later, but that, that group of like 4 or 5 days was hands down when I realized that I had a serious problem that I needed to take care of. So this time when I got sectioned, like I woke up like I do every other day. Like I didn't have any money to pick up or anything. No car at this point. I had lost my license. I'm like, how can I figure out how to get drugs? Like I'm at my wit's end today. And so I like scrounged together all the scraps from like the 80 million little baggies that I had. I'm in there with like a razor blade, like, oh, come on, just one little speck more. And so like I got high, and I got normal because I really didn't get high. But I was home alone, and like my mom ended up coming back home, and I was like, what? Like, why are you home? Like, no school today? And she's like, nope, snow day. And I was like, oh, all right, cool, you know, that's awesome. And she was like, oh, are you hungry? And I was like, yeah, I'm starving. So I go to take a bite of the sandwich, and I look to the right, and the back stairs are to the right, and I just see Andover police walking up the back steps, and I was like, damn it, like, I knew it. Like, something had to be too good to be true. So I walked to the door, and I opened the door, and they were like, are you Ryan? And I just turned to my mom, and I was like, really? Really, Mom? And she just, like, turned away and like, walked away, and so it was like, so I'm getting sectioned, and they were like, yep, getting sectioned. And I was like, all right, come on in, guys, like, I gotta get dressed. And so like, you know, like, I went in, got dressed, whatever, came back out, and I can't remember who it was, but I'm like in the back of the car, handcuffed, and the cops like leaning into the back of the cop car, like, do you know what you're doing to your mother? Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, I'm a heroin addict. Like, you think you know, like, while I'm using, I really give a shit about, you know, anyone else, let alone what a cop says who's, you know, put me in handcuffs and who's taking me to the courthouse to sit for another 8 hours. Like I really could care less, but my mom got me good. And like, I'm glad that she does that stuff, you know, like, I probably would not be alive today if my parents didn't care as much as they care, which I'm very thankful for, because some people don't have that. You know, some people struggle their whole lives, even without addiction, without their parents. So, you know, like, I love my parents more than anything.
So how has addiction affected your own life?
I had a cousin, his name was Billy. We were both named Billy. We kind of grew up together. I didn't really grow up in a necessarily traditional way, but we lived together. And as we grew older, we had kind of a bond that we would make something out of our lives, and we would do it together. And it was me and we were real close. I mean, you got a picture of me and my 3 little cousins growing up, sleeping in one little bed and hanging out and sharing each other's hopes and dreams. And we kind of had a pact that we would be different than some of the men that we saw in our family that had suffered from addiction and caused destruction in their own lives and in their families' lives. We were byproducts of that, and we were making it. You know, we struggled to move forward in life, and probably 8 years ago, he started acting funny. I just knew he wasn't the same. And he wasn't really honest with what was going on, because he couldn't. But the long story that I'll make it short for you is he had hurt himself, and he went to the doctors. He got a subscription for Oxycontin. I didn't even really, to be honest with you, that 8 years ago, wasn't even sure what that was. I think I thought it was oxycodone, but that's different. Oxycontin is a white little pill, looks kind of like an aspirin. It's heroin, synthetic-based heroin, and he took them. And he kept taking them, and then everything changed. And I did everything I could in my own life to try to help him, from physically fighting him, turning the doctor in. They was giving it to him, trying to love him, trying to change him, trying to cut off drug dealers, and none of it really worked because he was hooked. I took him in and out of rehabs, and then he died. And he was 38 years old, and he has a son that'll never know him. And he didn't make it, but he's so much more than that, and I don't remember him for the drugs, but I saw what the drugs did to him. And I know that, no human power could stop it, but I do plead and ask anybody that will listen that we need to do more in this country, because he was an amazing person. That flame was put out due to the fact that a doctor prescribed him an Oxycontin, and then he decided himself to go down that road. But I always wondered, if that drug was never made, if he might still be here today.
So, who in your family is an addict?
My dad, and like his dad was an alcoholic and he was a heroin addict. I think he started abusing drugs before I was born, but I noticed when I was like really young, like probably like 5, and he would like call me and like nod out on the phone and like stop answering. Or like when I was with him and sitting on the couch, like he would be like talking and like mid-sentence his like head would drop and he just would like be out and like stop talking. I would see him every other weekend, and it would never be for like long visits. Like we would sit there and he would like say he didn't feel good, and then like my grandmother would bring him home, and like I would hang out with my grandmother and then go home. Or like he would sit there and like nod out and stuff, and like I was like never close with him growing up, like didn't talk to him that much, like. And once I got older, I like stopped trying to see him, so I see him like every few months now instead of like every other weekend.
Do you think Andover has a heroin problem?
Yes. A bunch of kids are doing it, and it's like a huge epidemic. Well, a lot of people right now that I know that have used heroin are in recovery and are not using at the moment, but at a time I knew like 13 people probably, or 14 people who were using. Yes, I went to Andover High School. I mean, from all the people that I know, I think it's like depression. I know a bunch of kids who have wicked bad depression, and they all started using heroin. I'm sure they were like curious to see if it would like take away their pain, and a lot of people it did. So a lot of people, I don't know, most of the kids I know, that's why they started. Kelly was a girl who has lived in Andover her whole life, who was a really good friend to me and to a bunch of people. I met her in like 3rd grade, and I was close with her through elementary school, and we weren't so close in middle school, and then throughout high school she was my best friend. And she started, the first time she sniffed heroin was in like 2013. It became a huge problem for her the next year, in 2014, and she passed away. They marked the date as January 3rd, 2015, but I counted as January 1st, 2015. Her death affected all of us, a lot of people, like everyone that I know, in a huge way, because she was friends with like a bunch of people, even if they didn't hang out with her that much when she was using and stuff. She had so many friends throughout elementary school and middle school, and people in Beverly and Reading, and friends from detoxes, and there was a bunch of people that, I don't know, it affected. Her funeral was huge. There were so many people at it, and I don't know, I think her death is one that really, I mean, because she's the 4th person like in Andover, or 3rd or 4th person that we've lost in Andover in the past like 2 years, and she was the only person that they actually started doing something about it. Like she was on the news, and after that I saw a bunch of more things on the news about heroin and trying to fix that. And Gail, her mom, Gail Johnson, is doing an amazing job in trying to get a bunch of stuff to be passed for heroin. And yeah, I was friends with her through her entire addiction. I mean, we've been best friends all through high school. Like, she was like my sister. Like, we loved each other. And I don't like girls, so like she was my best friend. Well, it affected her life in like a huge way. She went through, I think it was 12 programs in the year that she had the addiction. She overdosed multiple times and was in the hospital multiple times. One of the times I've just found out like 2 weeks ago that I actually drove her, and that night she overdosed and ended up in the hospital. And I just found out from her mom like where that happened, and I was the one who drove her there. And when she was using, it was like that was the only thing that like mattered really. She was so caring towards like everyone, but she never wanted to tell me because like she didn't want it to hurt me, and she didn't want me to not be her friend anymore, which I don't know why she would think that. And like she would sit in someone's room and not leave, and she wouldn't really hang out with me when she was using or whatever. And if she would try to tell me she wasn't, but like I'm around it so often, like I know what it is. Like, but yeah, the last time she used was on I picked her up New Year's Eve night, and she was like totally fine. And she was with me all night, and that morning we went outside and she smoked a butt, and then we came in and I went in the living room and she went in the bathroom and used, and then she came out and she died like on my lap. And then they brought her back, but like she was never breathing on her own. And I mean, she had a bunch of friends through her whole addiction. Everyone there was like good friends with her, but the addiction's when like you start off doing it thinking it's like fun, and it gets like darker and darker, and you eventually like you can't escape. Like I have a bunch of letters and shit from Kelly saying like she wishes she wasn't doing what she was doing, but addiction's like a disease.
It strained every single type of relationship that I've ever had with, you know, like anyone, family related, you know, friends who have had to take care of me or watch over me while I'm, you know, too messed up. And, you know, like it's just, there's so much that like is affected while you're in the middle of using. And you know, like you may not think that you're hurting anyone else, but in reality, like you may be doing yourself some damage, like physically, but you know, emotionally and just mentally in general, you're like crushing everyone else around you. Like I had family members never want to talk to me again, you know, like so utterly disgusted with me that they never wanted, like they didn't even want to acknowledge my existence as someone in their family. And you know, it's someone who I look up to and who I still look up to. And you know, like I thought I had absolutely ruined that relationship for the rest of my life, and it's someone who's taken care of me throughout my whole life. It's just, it crushes everything. It really does. There's no other way to really describe it other than just complete and utter chaos. It had to be at least probably like 2 or 3 summers ago. I went into Lawrence to pick up, and I won't say, you know, like where I picked up, but I was coming back and I stopped at the McDonald's on 28 in Lawrence up by Northern Essex. And you know, like I shot up, I got high, and I was coming back on 28 back home. And it had to be like pretty much just when I had started out using. And I was coming up the hill where Jim Subs is, like right before the town line of Andover. And there's this big red excursion in front of me. And, you know, like I happened to nod out right as we're cresting this hill. And when I came to, he was stopped like 10 feet in front of me, maybe not even. And so I, you know, like I tried to jerk the wheel out of the way, and I ended up smashing this dude right in the, like, in his back right light. And, you know, airbags go out, I get knocked out, I come to, I'm like, why the fuck is there dust in my car? Like, what happened? And, you know, the airbags all deflated on my lap and everything. Car parts everywhere in the street. And I see this dude's car, like, on the other side of the road, like, way on the, like, almost on the sidewalk. And I was like, I killed this dude. Like, there's no way that this dude is not dead, because I hit him at least doing 30. And so I get out of the car, and you know, at this point my adrenaline's like pumping, you know, like I'm wide awake now, of course. And so I get out and I pretty much run over to this guy's window, and my face is right at like eye level with him, so like I can only see from like his shoulders up. And he's got blood splatter just all over his face, like it's all over the window. And I was just like, this dude's dead, like my life's over. And so I opened the car door to like help him out. And like I looked down and his bone is sticking through his leg. Like it looked like a spare rib. It was some pretty gruesome stuff. Like it was to the point where like I almost passed out because of how shocked I was. Spoke no English, of course, you know, like I'm like, are you okay? And he's can't respond, talking in like mumbled Spanish, and you know, like, this dude ran over, we helped him bring him to the car or whatever, and so then I realized, you know, like, oh, like, damn, I've got, you know, like my needle, my spoon, my dope, you know, like my tourniquet, like it's all just chilling in my car. So I ran back to my car and I'm throwing like all my stuff, you know, into the backpack that I had, and I threw it in my trunk. And so then maybe like a minute later, the cops and the ambulance come, and you know, like they come over to me right away, and I'm like, that's it, I'm going to jail, like my life's over. And they were like, oh, are you all right? And like, what happened? And I was like, oh, the dude slammed on his brakes, like, I don't know, I had to swerve and see his right light smashed out, and I was like, don't worry about me, like I'm cool, you know, my car's smashed up and I'm all right, but that dude's bone's sticking through his leg, so you might want to go help him. And you know, like they didn't breathalyze me, they didn't, you know, check my pupils, they didn't do anything. They were just like, all right, well, you can't drive your car, we're gonna have it towed, can you get a ride? And I was like, yes. Like, can I leave? Is it all right to leave? And then I went on my way, took my backpack, and just went and finished the rest of my night doing it, just getting high, drinking, you know, like it had never happened. And it's just like, that's how my life was for like years at a time. And it wasn't just while I was shooting heroin. It was like, even before that, like driving to Connecticut for like a 2-hour drive just to go hang out with my friends from school to pick up perks, and then pick up a bunch and drive back for 2 hours at like 11 o'clock at night, having to have the window open to have the cool air keep me awake. Just like ugly stuff.
When was the first time you ever tried heroin? When I was 16 years old, at the beginning of late January. Constantly for about 4 months, but total about a year. I just really liked the feeling of it, and there was really nothing else to it. I had a pretty bad relationship with my mother and my father, and I really wasn't seeing them because I was out of the house all the time. And then they started to notice something was wrong, so they got really worried.
Who in your family is an addict?
My brother.
What's he addicted to?
Heroin. When I was 7, I went into his room and found his stuff and brought it to my mom. He was 18.
By stuff, what do you mean? What did you find?
I found a syringe, a rubber band, a pipe, heroin. I can't remember if there was actually heroin in the bag, but I found a bag for it, brought it to her, and asked her if he was a diabetic. It's hard to live with someone when you're young and know that they're addicted to something, because you grow up in school the entire time learning that these people are monsters, that they're terrible, that they'll get you addicted to drugs, that they steal from you, that they don't love you, that they'll ruin your family. And then you're living with one, and you're supposed to hate them, but you can't possibly hate them, and you don't see the worst of them every day. So it gets really confusing when you're young, and then you start to get to an age where you're just angry, and then you start to realize how it affects your family, and then you get even more angry. And then finally you just become a little bit numb to it, and they become an acquaintance to you. Regardless of if they live with you or not, you don't mention them. I can't remember how many times I've heard, you have a brother. I don't talk about it. But it's hard because you want to stop loving them, but you really, really can't. In my family, it's flipping a coin to see who goes into his room. Like when we were little, on top of my brother being an addict, he had depression issues, and so sometimes he'd lock himself in his room for days because he was depressed. but you never knew if it was actually because he was depressed or if he was dead. And my mom would never do it, so it was between me and my sister. We'd flip a coin, and you'd run in and you'd close your eyes and you'd like push him, and he'd yell at you, and like it became really, really just tiring to like hope to God that your brother wasn't going to be dead. Yeah, I think Andover has a massive drug problem in general, but heroin is probably the biggest piece to it because it's the most dangerous. I know for my group we have sympathy, but and my parents, but for a lot of other families and other people in the town who aren't exposed to it as rawly as my group is, as like, you know, just black and white that this person is great but they have a problem, you have the same view that the health class gave you and that everybody gives you, and that the fact that these people are scum and you shouldn't help them because it's their own fault, and that you shouldn't want to be around them, and that they don't deserve any kind of love or sympathy. It's a very negative view for people who are part of everyday families. I mean, we're an extremely wealthy town, and 15 people who have been fairly close to me have done heroin and been addicted to heroin and gotten away for heroin, and some are dead from heroin. So like the fact that we can't accept the fact that it's just an issue in this town is, especially with the fact that people don't take the addiction so seriously. Kids get prescribed painkillers frequently, and it ends up leading them to this.
Why do you think kids in Andover use?
Boredom and apathy and stress, beyond stressful. And it's an extremely judgmental town that pretends to be something it's not a lot of times, so it's hard not to feel helpless.
I think one of the craziest things about it is, like, I used to think I was like the biggest, baddest dude when I was using, and I was like 140 pounds, like maybe soaking wet, and just like the biggest ego of all time, and you could have probably like snapped me in half at that point in my life. Like, it was just not, it's like you basically like starve yourself when you do it. You can't eat, like, no appetite whatsoever. I survived off maybe like a packet of gummy worms a day, maybe some ice cream if I was feeling up to it, and like maybe some cucumbers here and there. But like that's about it. That's about as much as I used to eat. And like when I'm clean, I like, it like just comes right back. It's so weird. It's like you've been starving yourself for days and weeks and months, and, you know, depending on how long your run is.
Started off by doing perks at the end of junior year. I got my wisdom teeth out, and they prescribed me perks, and one thing led to another, and the first time I really did try it for the very first time was January of 2014. I got my wisdom teeth out, and they prescribed me perks, and one thing led to another, and the first time I really did try it for the very first time was January of 2014. I was in the car of two of my other friends, and we only had $40, and we were going back and forth screaming at each other like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like, no, I wanted to get perks, and they were just like, "No, let's get dope." Like, I was like, "Fuck you! I'm not gonna fucking do that to myself." And then they're just like, "No," and eventually I gave in after 2 hours of fighting, and no, I avoided people. It does sound kind of hypocritical because I was doing perks, but I never really thought I would actually ever end up doing heroin. I mean, I was like, oh, perks, like, they're made in the lab, like, they're safer, like, oh, I'm not gonna get hooked on dope, but
shit happens. January 14th, probably until February 28th, every day. I stopped February 28th because, first of all, February 28th, it was not only my niece's birthday, but the day my dad's birthday, but all my friends that I was using with all got sent away detox. So I had the courage to tell my mom that, Mom, I've been fucking up. I can't do this to myself. I didn't tell her it was heroin at first. I told her I was only on oxys and I was addicted to oxys, and like I was going through withdrawals, I was sweating, throwing up, insomnia, shakes, the chills in my bones. It was living hell. January 14th, probably until February 28th, every day. I stopped February 28th because, first of all, February 28th, it was not only my niece's birthday, but the day my dad's birthday, but all my friends that I was using with all got sent away detox. So I had the courage to tell my mom that, Mom, I've been fucking up. I can't do this to myself. I didn't tell her it was heroin at first. I told her I was only on oxys and I was addicted to oxys. And then I would say probably around the beginning of July, I picked up again. And I used probably until, say, about October. And then I kind of realized, I know I need help. Like I started losing friends. I started stealing money from my parents. I did some pretty awful things to get my fix that I'm not proud of. I got really depressed and I had anxiety, really bad anxiety coming to school. The boredom, especially, I couldn't, at that time, I wasn't doing much of anything. Like, really, I couldn't really think of, any, sports I really wanted to do. I stopped doing baseball and lacrosse before high school, so I never really did the high school teams. And then, also, I was trying to chase a new high. Because, hell, I know Andover High kids definitely smoke weed, they drink, it's high school. But sometimes that high is just not enough. And you just want more. And also my friends were using it too. And I was always around it when they were using it. And it was hard, even if I was just trying to stay clean. They would use it around me, and it would just trigger me. I wish I never did it. Every moment of my life, I wish I never did it. I wish I never tried perks. I wish I never tried heroin. I regret many things, but you just can't dwell on the past, I chose to get sent away myself. I knew there was an issue and I wanted to get help. I just couldn't stand hurting my parents and lying to them about where I was gonna be. I got upset because I was worried because they didn't know if I was alive or not. If they knew if I was even gonna come home or even if I was gonna wake up. I've had my mom walk in on me twice when I overdosed. She had to revive me twice. Hit me with Narcan.
You know, like I know one time, I can't remember who was there. I know there were a few kids who really didn't know me, but like, you know, knew of me. We were all chilling in the gazebo, and you know, like a bunch of other kids that I'm friends with, closer with, were there, and I had like just picked up, and I was with my ex-girlfriend who you know, like has passed away, and I'm sitting in the gazebo with my legs up, with my backpack in front of me, and you know, like a bag with like, you know, like my rig and stuff. So I'm sitting like this and setting it up or whatever, and I'm shooting up in the gazebo, and like, you know, a little kid, couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, starts walking up into the gazebo with his dad, and you know, like I pretty much just leaned and hit it, and you know, like let them run around and do their thing up there for a few minutes, just needle hanging out of my arm, and then when they went back down, just, you know, like finishing it off, like, and like not even skipping a beat, like, oh man, I shouldn't be doing this. It was like, hurry up and get the fuck out of the gazebo. You know, like I would just like hang in there, you know, like if you're still using, like I said, there's a way out, you know, like there's plenty of programs, long-term, short-term, IOPs. You have like programs that you are mandated to stay, programs that you're not mandated to stay, you know, like there's 1,000 ways for you to get clean, and there's really only a few to stay high. So like, it's just, give yourself a shot, you know, like you're worth more than, you know, a $40 dope bag.
I'm happy that I have my skin color back. I'm happy that I went from 139 to 160 now. Yeah. Many of my friends have died from heroin overdose, and many have overdosed close friends, and many of them are even just suffering from this disease. Hell, if you're having issues, you just need to ask for help. You can't just sit there in the hole and just die on your own. Like, you can't abandon someone if they have an addiction. It just makes it worse. You need to give a helping hand. You need to help them up. You need to get them back up on their feet. You need to motivate them. You need to get them to do stuff. You need to get their mind off of it. Obviously, treatments, I highly suggest treatment if you're really heavily into it.
2 different programs actually helped me. It was I got a lot of family support, but also motivated youth recovery out in Worcester, which is a detox. Helped me out a lot my first time trying to get clean, and my second time at it, I went back to that same detox, and then moved on to the Cushing House in South Boston, which was very beneficial for my recovery, and I learned a lot there, and it helped me out a lot.
What motivates you to stay clean?
Friendships that I still have that I don't want to lose. I know that if I went back to it, and my parents found out, my relationship with my family would never be the same. God forbid I got in trouble again, that would mess up all my probations and stuff, and it's just not worth it. Like, I've done it. I know like how it changes your life, and like the high is not worth it. So the curiosity, trying to figure out what that high is like, nothing's worth it for that, to risk it. I mean, especially with everything that's happened, not just in this town, but the whole Northeast, the past like 2 years, 3 years, even longer, but I wouldn't have known about it. And it's just not worth it. It's pretty sad, because it doesn't discriminate. Like, it doesn't matter age, sex, race, nothing matters. It's just, there's nothing like it. You can't, it's like hard to describe.
I have a lot of things that motivate me to stay clean. I have friends that I love, friends I love that aren't here anymore, that I want to make proud. My family. being alive in general. Like, I can do things, I can go places, I can change people's minds, I can change the world, we all can. I can stop this from ever happening in other places. I can change views about addiction, raise awareness, and try to spread love, not hate about it. I have things to be alive for, and those are the things I stay clean for. My friends, my family never knew about my problems, so it's not their own doing, but they didn't really help. But my friends especially, I had people who would check up on me even when I didn't want to be checked up on, people who would try to find me when I would try to go ghost or something like that, and would make sure I was okay. And
what's keeping me clean this time? I go to AA. I have a sponsor who, you know, helps me when I'm having rough times in my sobriety, when I need to bounce questions off him. He's bringing me through the steps, which is basically changing. It's not changing, it's taking a look at myself and realizing how I've been running my life and how I need to change it in a different way. I try and be a better person on, like, you know, a daily basis, because I'm not a good human being when I'm using, but you know, like, the love and support of my family and friends is huge for me. It's like a big motivator, you know, like just being able to get them back and get the love and affection and just everything that comes with it is like so amazing. It's like the small things in life that, you know, like I'm unwilling to let go of now that are keeping me clean. And I'm not willing to give up those things today to use. You know, like, don't get me wrong, I have my weak moments, just like anybody does with anything that they struggle with. But, you know, like, I have to keep in mind, you know, like people that I've loved and cared about are dying from this disease or dying from this drug. You know, like, one of my friends who had two kids, and he just recently passed away within, you know, a few months ago from relapsing, and it only took 2 days. You know, like, I want to stay clean for them. You know, like, I want them to be able to see me from, you know, wherever they are now. You know, whether it be heaven or wherever it may be. You know, like, I want them to look down and say, you know, like, Ryan's doing his thing. You know, like, he's doing good. You know, like, I want my family to see me doing good. You know, like, and I want me to do good. You know, it's like, I spent like over 10 years of my life just wasting away doing drugs, trying to be like the cool kid, and, you know, like, now I really don't care. I could be the loser for all I care and have my life together. That's what's important to me. It's kind of it kind of sucks because like, in my mind, you know, like, everyone knows I'm a heroin addict. Like, walking down the street, I'm always like, I wonder who really knows, you know, like, I wonder if, you know, like, the cops roll by me and they're like, oh, there's, you know, watch out for him, look out, hide your kids. You know, but, like, in reality, like, I'm sure, you know, like, some people know, some people may have no idea. Some people may have no idea that there's heroin in Andover. And, you know, honestly, if I could live like that, that would be the ideal way for me to live, just to completely forget and live in complete, you know, denial, I guess. But
so who helped you ultimately, like, quit? Or was it, like, yourself?
Definitely not myself. Well, like I said, you know, like, I got sectioned, and that's certainly not by my choice. Like I said, I'm that kind of person who I need to be forced into treatment in order to really, like, get my mind clear. Ultimately, it's up to me whether or not I want to use. But today, like, I don't want to, you know, like, it's not who I am, and I know I don't need it to be who I am. But, you know, like, even just, like, small, like, you're doing great, or, you know, like, you know, family members checking in daily, or friends checking in daily, you know, like, it helps. It really does. It makes, like, a whole world of difference to know that, like, other people are with you in this fight, and that, you know, like, I don't really have to fight it by myself. You know, like, I go to AA, even though, you know, like, I don't say I have a problem with alcohol, but any substance is my problem, essentially. It doesn't even have to be drugs or alcohol. It could be eating, it could be playing video games, it could be working out, it could be anything that you can indulge in is my issue, and I have to, you know, like regulate that on the daily. But people definitely help me, which is, you know, a lot more than I could ask for.
But if you are out there struggling with alcohol, any drug with an addictive, with physical addictions, and also that mental addictive, like a mental addiction, you're not alone. Like everyone has their own demons, if they're showing them or not. Like addicts, they show their demons. Addicts, I feel like they're mistreated, they're misunderstood. Like cops arrest people for possession of drugs, and they're just thinking they're just bad people, but really they're just people that just need help. They're nice people.
To people who haven't started using, or, you know, are thinking about using or whatever, like, you don't need to use to fit in. You don't need to try it once in your life. You don't need to fall into any of those categories. You know, like, sure, I know I said it was fun in the beginning, and I used it as like a social thing, but like, there's a very fine line where you cross over from recreational to being dependent on it, and it's covered in sand. There's no way to tell when you're gonna cross that line, and it may be your first time, and it may be, you know, 100 times after you first started. But, you know, why would you risk your life on that? You know, like, it's like a game of Russian roulette, and you know, like, you shouldn't want to play that, you know, regardless of how fun it may be, or, you know, like, looking cool or any of that stuff. Because, like, I used to always want to be like the center of, you know, every social circle, and I used to want to be cool and all that. And today, like, I really don't give a shit if you like me or don't like me. You know, like, I know personally I like myself, and that's ultimately what really matters. To people who are using, there's a way out, and, like, you don't need to be stuck in that vicious cycle forever. You may not want it, but, you know, like, no one, like, I didn't wake up one morning and be like, oh, I want to be a junkie for the rest of my life, you know, like, it took a long time for me to realize that. And even if you don't want help, like, just try it. You know, like, there's nothing, you know, like, if you don't like it, then go back out and use, you know, like, no one's keeping you sober. It's all up to you. But, like, why would you want to be a junkie the rest of your life? You know, like, when you could have a family, you could have kids, you could have a house, you could have a car, you know, like, and it's not all about the things that you can attain in life, but, you know, like, happiness is certainly one that I've found and I value more than anything else that I have materialistic wise, like hats, clothes, whatever, you know, like, it's cool to have, but, you know, like, I'd rather much have my life, you know, like, people I care about in it. It's not a healthy way to live, you know, like, it's just, some people just need time to get it. It doesn't happen overnight. Like, I just lost someone very close to me, like one of my ex-girlfriends who, you know, like, pretty much had lived with me, and, you know, like, she was an amazing girl, and it sucks that, you know, she's gone, and, you know, like, it didn't have to happen, and I hold some guilt over my head because of, you know, like, getting her into this sort of thing. But at the end of the day, you know, like, everyone has choices, and you can either choose to stay on, you know, this straight and narrow path, or you can stray away, and you can make your own choices.
How do I feel about illicit drugs? I don't know. How do I feel about young people that get trapped in that? Overwhelmed, sad, you know, powerless, you know. I hope that we can find ways to have young people feel good about themselves and not have to turn in that direction for whatever the reason. But I can tell you this, they don't do it on purpose. No human being ever woke up and said, hey, I'm going to be an addict today and ruin my friendships and end up not liking myself and feeling ashamed to walk around being the person I am. So just like no person woke up and said, you know, I left the doctor's office and I got diagnosed with cancer. And no matter what I do, I can't stop the cancer from coming. And addiction is just like that. You know, but we can try to intervene, we can try to educate, and we can try to research it and help young people find a way. And if we don't make it a national priority, it's going to keep taking lives.
Now, what kind of concerns do the young people have that you've been hearing recently?
It's funny because in a lot of ways, I think there's basically saying that you know, a lot of the adults around them don't really understand the issues. That's not something you can just learn about in a textbook and talk about it in a health class. It's bigger than that. That behind the whole thing is a lot of pressure, you know, to kind of, maybe it's to grow up too fast, maybe it's to be somebody you don't want to be. Maybe there's not enough caring arms out there to put around their shoulders to say, hey, it's okay, you'll be all right, you know, you're okay the way you are, you know. Lack of connection, you know, getting isolated, you know, sometimes people that get in trouble, they get isolated, and when they're isolated, you don't know where they are, you don't know how they're feeling, you don't know how to reach out to them. You know, and isolation comes from stigma, it comes from people that don't take the time to reach out, check on that person they say they love, you know. So I think there's, you know, young people have been the reason why I do what I do. They're inspiring, you know. They've given me a chance to have a purposeful life, and I appreciate that. And I think there's a lot of hostility in general in America about young people. You know, like they're selfish, or they're self-centered, or they're the technology generation, or the iPhone generation, and I think, quite frankly, that's a bunch of bullshit. I think that young people in this community have done nothing but get involved, raise money for all kinds of programs, supported the youth center, supported initiatives at the school, have supported one another, are amazing, full of hope, full of dreams. The next group that'll step up and change this world. I see totally the opposite of what's portrayed in the newspapers, and actually sometimes I get frustrated when I hear a lot of the adults talk about, wow, when I was younger, we used to just play in the neighborhood, or, you know, we didn't do this and we didn't do that, and I didn't sit on TV playing video games and blah, 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 and all that. And it's a different world. So you can't go backwards. America's built on going forward. So, I don't know. It leads me to say, well, I don't never understand why we don't involve young people in the process of creating change in their communities when it affects them greatly. So I'd like to see more young people invited to meetings where decisions are made that affect their lives. I think that would be helpful. Well, the only thing is I don't think we should see young people in terms of doing drugs or not doing drugs. You know, I think part of that, we recently lost a young person, and I think sometimes in the general community there's this thought that, oh, that person's different than my kid, or that person did drugs because their parents got divorced, or something like that, and that's not the truth. That person maybe had a health problem called addiction, and the addiction just ended up taking this young person's life, you know. And I think it's important to realize that, you know, a lot of what we're seeing is young people that had lots of interests, lots of activities, good students, good kids, good parents, and it doesn't matter. Addiction will take you, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter where you live, no matter what color your skin is. If it enters into your life, you know, it'll take anybody down. Well, I think first and foremost is you have to be real about it. Somehow, there's a stigma. So if You know, if a person has cancer in the community, there's an immediate reaction of empathy, support, compassion, outreach, resources. But if it's addiction, there's a different reaction to it, kind of like the person could have controlled it, or they're wrong or they're bad for getting into a substance that is highly addictive, that somebody else made and brought to the community and put in front of someone. And addiction is a national, I think people don't see addiction as a health epidemic. They see cancer as a health issue. We need to solve that. Addiction is right up there as the killer of young people, a killer of hope, killer of spirits. So if we really are going to be serious about it, then we have to first of all be real about it. Number one, that it is in our community. Number two, that our young people have died from it. And our leaders need to recognize that and respond appropriately. And the first and foremost, appropriately, is not being silent about it. Because when you're silent about it, you're creating a situation where people are guessing what it is. A lot of young kids don't even know what it looks like. Doesn't know. They're just hearing things about it. I think we should be real about it. Say it's in our community. Maybe have young people that have struggled with it and recovered, or are in recovery, or help. Maybe have them help with the process.
My people's dreams die. I seen what they can be denied. And weeds on a drug that's denial. Groundhog Day life repeat each time. I seen Oxycontin take 3 lives. I grew up with them, we used to cheat dimes. I seen cocaine bring out the demons inside. Cheating in line, friendship cease, no peace in the mind. Stealing to take anything to fix the pieces inside. Broken, hopeless, headed nowhere. Only motivation for what the dealer's supplying. That rush, that drug, that dope. Those pills, that crumb, that roach. Thinking I will never do that, not that drug. Growing up, nobody ever does. Until you're stuck, looking in the mirror like I can't believe what I become. Swore I was gonna be someone, and growing up, everyone always does. We sell our dreams and our potential to escape through that buzz. Just keep me up, Hollywood, here we come.